Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is alive and well. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen getting a chance to meet with the mistakenly deported Maryland dad, who, of course, is being held at a notorious maximum security prison in El Salvador. So the senator shared this photo on social media before heading back to the U.S. El Salvador's president insists Abrego Garcia will remain in prison in that country, and he did a little trolling online, posting Kilmar Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the, quote, death camps and, quote, torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. So the Supreme Court has ordered the Trump administration to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return to the U.S. The president's borders are making it clear there are no plans to do that.
I don't think anybody in the administration did anything wrong. I don't think we actually violated a court order. I think he's a citizen of El Salvador. He's in El Salvador. He's home.
Entering the group chat this morning to talk about it, Sarah Fisher, media correspondent for Axios, along with Nayyera Haq, former Obama White House senior director, and Tiffany Smiley, former Republican Senate candidate from Washington State. Good morning, everybody. All right. So, Nayyera, I want to talk with you because Democratic voters have been going to their leaders and saying, we want you to do something. We want you to step in. They've been calling for actions of a kind. Maryland Senator Van Hollen did do that. Did it work, so to speak? Kind of what do you see in that moment?
So he is my home state senator, and I can tell you we're certainly feeling around the state this enthusiasm that someone in power is actually trying to do something to check the imbalance in power we have right now. The Senate is a powerful body. They can do things. Congress is this is the Article 1 of the Constitution.
But is this a little like the Senator Booker sort of standing up and giving a speech? Is it about the image? Because it doesn't actually do something.
Well, what it does is that it gets the attention of a group of people right now who feel like they are leaderless. Right, so there's a large swath of the country that is Democrat. There's a large swath that is uncommitted. 90 million people did not vote. They are all at this moment waiting for somebody to directly challenge individual actions of Trump. Doesn't mean you need to be the next president candidate of the United States, but this idea that if you have power right now, this is an opportunity to step up and do something about it. So yes, going directly to El Salvador, making sure that he laid eyes on a resident, someone who's constituent, frankly made me feel better that if I get disappeared, somebody's going to try to find me and figure out if I'm okay.
Okay, that is setting the bar actually in an appropriate place. I appreciate that. I want to play a soundbite, however, from Patty Morin. She's the mother of Rachel Morin, who was raped and murdered by an undocumented immigrant back in 2023. And here's how she reacted to Hollen's trip.
And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter?
So just to be clear, she was not raped or murdered by Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So two completely different crimes, different times, and Garcia does not actually have a criminal record. But Sarah, I want to talk to you about messaging, and also, Tiffany, I want to hear from you about the use of the victims' families in this way at the forefront. What do you make of having her out there in the response?
Well, I think it's important to hear Patty and Rachel's story. I mean,
But in this story?
I mean, so I think this all goes back to the majority of Americans voted for President Trump because there was an open southern border where illegals were coming in and making our communities unsafe, killing American citizens with no plan in sight, and no, people were feeling less and less safe with every waking day. And President Trump came in on a commitment, promises made and promises kept, that he was going to secure the border, deport illegals, deport criminals who do not belong in this country. So I think it's just making this stark contrast that, this Maryland man, He is a part of MS-13. There is intelligence reports that show that he was involved in human trafficking. He's a wife beater. There are records that his wife.
None of that has actually been proven or shown in court, and that's part of the problem. Is there's no due process.
I'm glad you're introducing this. I also don't want to get sued, so I'll say the government has not released any documented information around intelligence reports specifically, and right now the documents they did release this week did not show he had a criminal record.
I think it is an interesting from a messaging.
Yeah, I just want to say fact.
From a messaging standpoint, it's fascinating that Democrats are really going to bat for this illegal immigrant, which we do know he is, and that this
legally, he had legal status here in the United States. Like, if we're going to have a messaging conversation, let's at least make sure it's grounded in the facts of individuals, because this is about people and human lives.
All right, hold on,
so
you guys. Let me bring in Sarah for a minute. No, hold on one second. This will be very fast. This is the conversation that I hear all the time, right? You're either for criminals, against victims, or you are for this bullying government that is just completely pillaging due process and the right. Like, can you talk about seeing this conflicting conversation play out in real time?
Well, I think the Trump administration conceded that it was a mistake that he was sent there. So now you're seeing a little bit of cleanup. Like, I was hearing from the sort of Trump echo chamber and some of the folks on the right online, like, hey, what the heck happened here? Even Joe Rogan came out.
Famously,
and Joe Rogan's not really conservative, you know, he's sort of just like populist, but even Joe Rogan came out and was like, hey, this was a mistake, like this shouldn't be happening. So when I see a press conference like that, to me it looks like the White House is trying to double down on its defense of the mistake, and that's the messaging point here. Regardless of what the actual policy controversy
which courts are looking at right now.
I think what you're seeing here is they're trying to double down on why they did this after calling it a mistake.
One more thing, a shift in President Trump's approach as he talked about this story through the week. So here's what he told reporters in the Oval Office yesterday.
Or hold you in contempt, will you take steps to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States and put him in front of a judge?
Well, I'm not involved in it. I'm going to respond by saying you'll have to speak to the lawyers, the DOJ. I've heard many things about him, and we'll have to find out what the truth is.
Okay, Tiffany, I want to let you finish your point. When you hear the president talking there, he even says, let's find out what the truth is.
Yeah. Well, let's let the court decide. I mean, whether he's in El Salvador or he's here in the United States, I mean, clearly he should be, you know, held here, not out in the public.
Do you believe it's out of the president's hands?
Clearly, he said it's out of his hands at this point. It's in the courts. But I want to make a point that a sitting senator never met with Patty, who has no justice. She lost her daughter, who was brutally raped and killed by an illegal immigrant, but yet gives deference and will fly to El Salvador to meet with an illegal immigrant. The optics of that are not great. I mean, you look at this from a whole messaging standpoint, and it makes sense why President Trump was elected.
Yeah, we should be clear. That man was convicted of that attack on Monday. Again, not Abrego Garcia.
Right,
I want to make
correct.
sure,
Yes,
just because when you say it in a way that's really quick, it makes it sound like he committed this crime, which he didn't, and I just don't want to make that.
It's giving Patty a voice.
Yeah.
She has no justice.
And she should have a voice,
But
and it is
does
a
she?
horrible case, but it's also with her senator and her constituents. Like, we're blurring the lines of how power and authority works. Like, when you are the Maryland senator, you are going to be concerned about what happens to residents and legal people living in Maryland.